Hey guys, and welcome to another tutorial for the Centaurus Minimap. In this video we'll be taking a look at some of the new features and explain how you can use them. But first, if you haven't already, I encourage you to go to the after you add the minimap to your project, go to the Centaurus Minimap here and then open up the examples folder, and inside it you want to go to the L tutorial and then maps here, and you want to open up this tutorial map, which is this one. And so if you play, you can already see some tooltips here that you can like a few examples that you can use with your minimap. Of course, you can just open up the tutorial character and see how everything is done. One of the new features is, of course, displaying the entire map, like making a big map. If you press M, for example, you want to see the entire map and you want to be able to zoom in and drag to a specific location, add markers, or just check out what's going on the map. And of course, if you open up this example map, you can check out the two examples here. For example, if I press M, you can see that so I'm gonna press C to enable the mouse, and as you can see, we can see here the entire map. Of course, for my example here, I don't have a big map or like a big example, so with a bigger map it's going to look much better. But for now, we can see the what's going on the map. We have the mini map here at the bottom. Of course, you can hide that when you show this if you want. So this is the entire map. Of course, we can see what's going on. We can zoom in and out with the mouse wheel. Of course, you can enable this option or disable it. And of course, you can, like I said, drag to a specific area using your mouse. So if we hold the left mouse button, of course, this is something you can also customize. For example, you can use the right mouse button if you want. So as you can see, we can drag to a specific area. You can zoom in and out as you want. And so, for example, you want to go here and like add a marker, or like just zoom in and out and check out different areas. We have a bar here that we can use. This is something I just added. You can like remove this or add your own things. You don't have to add this, of course. You can. I just added it to show you how to manipulate the zoom value. I'll show you how you can use this one. Of course, you can use other things like 2 buttons or something like that, or just simply use the mouse wheel. Of course, as I said, you can drag to a different area and like do whatever you want, like add a marker. And the other thing is the tooltip. So basically now you can add tooltips to anything pretty much. For example, this marker, I added a tooltip called happy marker. This is something you can add or choose not to. And so if we hover over it, you can see happy marker. So this is useful when you add something, and when the player hovers over that thing, you want to show him or like tell him what is that, like is it a door, is it something specific. So for this example, we just added happy marker, and so when we hover over it, we can see the tooltip happy marker. This also works for the minimap. For the happy marker, like the text in general, you can just open up the point of interest widget and you can customize the text as you want, and you can even add things to it. The other example, of course, we can just close the map, open it up again. Now for the other example, we can press P. As you can see here in the tooltips, it tells you what you can press and see as an example, and then later you can just open up the tutorial character and see how it's done. So if we press P here, we have another example. Here we have like the same thing pretty much. We can just zoom in and out. We can use the left mouse button to drag like to a specific area. We can zoom in even more, and we can, like, for example, go here and just add another marker, and it has pretty much the same thing. So this is just another way of adding the map. You can either like make it something like World of Warcraft, where you have a map and a border, like in a frame, and on the right you have quests and whatnot, or you can have the map pretty much take all the screen. It's up to you to use whatever you want. As for the point of interest, like players and markers, etc., you can add them manually, just like we saw with the minimap, or you can just copy from the minimap itself, and we'll see this feature in a little bit. Now for now, of course, I can't move because I need to add the movement events. So we're going to back to the examples folder, and we'll open the L tutorial folder, and we want to go to the tutorial character. So like I said, If you want to check out how things are done with this in this example, you can just open up the tutorial character here and of course see how everything is done. So I removed these events because we don't have the same inputs, so you can add your own inputs if you're like using a controller or like just a keyboard. And so here you can add your events for moving forward and right, etc. So for moving forward, I'm going to use my event, which is just move forward. And here I'm going to add the mouse events. So this of course depends on your inputs. So this is the mouse yaw. Of course, now with these events, we can move around. And now, of course, if I open up like the map, as you can see, I can see my character right here moving, and we can do whatever we want with the map. Of course, like I said, we can add markers and check out what's going on the map. Now I'm going to show you how you can add this big map, how you can customize it, and with some other settings that you can change. So if you haven't watched my previous tutorials about how you add the minimap and add things to it, I highly recommend that you go back and watch those tutorials because they're very important to understand how you can add the minimap to your project, how you can add things to it, of course characters and other things. Now of course we'll be doing similar things here with a few changes. Of course you can just keep watching the video if you want. So let's go ahead and start by making our big map where we can see the entire map and change some of the settings to our needs. So I'm going to content here and I'm going to create a folder called tutorial. So the first thing we want to do is create a widget, and that widget will add the minimap component, and then we'll change some settings. So inside this tutorial folder, you want to right click and go to user interface and then widget blueprint. And I'm going to call this my big map. So we're going to open the my big map widget. So if we go to user created here, we have the minimap component, or we can just search here. We can just write component. And so here's the minimap component. We'll drag it there. And of course we want to change the size. So let's pick something like 900 by 900. So first we want to change the map texture. So what map texture you want to display. For the map texture, you can switch with something else at runtime if you load another level or something like that. I'll be making another tutorial for multi-level game where you go from level to level and you want to change the map texture based on what level you are in. But for now, you can just change the initial map texture here. And for this example, we'll just use the same texture, which is the T map texture 1, which is the T minimap texture. We can open it up. So this is just a texture of the entire map. Next, we want to change the map link and texture, which is a very important value. We can just pick the same value as the minimap, which is 14,000. If you watch the other tutorials, you can see how we can get this value very easily with the Scene Capture 2D, or you can just check out the link in the description for a written post where you can see how you can get it. But for now, the map link or the map width is pretty much just the width of the area captured in your texture. So if we go back to the texture, we can see that this is the area that we're capturing in our texture. Now, of course, our map can be even bigger than this, but we might choose just to capture this area. And so to get that value, you can just calculate the distance from this point to this point, or from this point to this point. So just from the right to the left, or from the bottom to top. So of course, depending on what you have in your texture. So we can go here and change perspective to top, and we can see our map from above. So based on our texture, we can calculate the distance from this point to this point. And so we can, for example, come from this point right here, and we can hold the middle mouse button and just calculate the distance in word units, of course. And as you can see, it's about 14,000. If you use the Scene Capture 2D as shown in the previous tutorials, you can get a precise value for that distance or for the width. So as shown in the other tutorials, it's 14,000. Of course, it depends on your texture. Again, I highly recommend that you watch the other tutorials to understand how we can get the to make a texture if you don't have one, and of course how you get this distance using the Scene Capture 2D. So before we change the zoom, I want to change the circular here. I'm going to uncheck that so to make it rectangular. The second thing, we want to check this is big map. This is very important to check to indicate that it's a big map. So make sure the big minimap or is big minimap is true. So for the zoom, I'm going to increase that to 0.9. Of course, this depends on your project. You might want to change these settings and see how they work out. But for now, we're going to pick 0.9 and make sure that is big minimap is checked. So for the mouse wheel zoom, you can enable or disable this. This is pretty much just when you put your cursor on the map, you can use the mouse wheel to zoom in and out. So you can either enable this or disable it. For the view angle, we can pick a view angle. I'm not going to do that for this example. For the my location texture, I'm going to use the position indicator. So this one comes with the minimap files. We'll change the size here to something like 50 by 50, and for the color, you can pick whatever you want. For the minimap border or frame, you can use your own border if you want. I'm going to use the border and 1000 as a size. Of course, you can change the size at runtime as well. So for the border size, you can change it at runtime. You can just call change border size, or like even change the texture if you want. So for the border rotation, we'll disable that. We don't want the border to rotate. So this is pretty much all we need for this section. Now the other section is the big map settings. So you can change the drag sensitivity. You can change the drag limit value. So the drag limit value is how far you can drag the map. You can increase or decrease that. And of course, you can disable the ability to drag the map if you don't want that. And for the mouse button to drag, we're using by default the left mouse button, but of course you can change that to whatever you want, but for now we'll just keep it left mouse button. So this is pretty much it for the settings, and of course since it's a widget we can add whatever we want. So let's go ahead and add a slider. So I'm going to just drag that slider here. Let's go ahead and change the orientation to vertical and change the size a little bit. So we'll use this to control the zoom manually if you want. And so for the value, we'll bind it to the zoom value of the minimap, so, or like for the map in general. So for value here, we're going to click on bind and then create binding. And so how we can get this binding or zoom, we can just get the minimap component, which is here. Just drag that, get minimap component, and just get zoom value. So get zoom. So we want to get the zoom, and we just put it there. And so that's pretty much it. That's how you get the zoom. And of course, if you use the mouse wheel, you can also update the slider. I'm going to change the color to something like orange. So how can we use this slider to change the zoom value? We'll go to the events here, and we'll change or like handle on value change. So we want to handle the on value change. So let's click here. So this is the on value change. And what we want to do is just, again, get the minimap component and just get the, so we get the minimap component and we want to call the function set zoom value. So set zoom value, there it is. And so we simply just give it the value, and that's how it works. So let's go ahead and compile. So for now, this is pretty much it. We might add something later, but for now, let's go ahead to the tutorial character. So the best place to create this widget would be probably the event begin play, just like we did with our minimap. So the begin play, so in the begin play here, we'll add another pin, and so we'll create our big map. So after we create the minimap and add the characters and whatnot, we can just finally create the my big map. So, or we can just create a custom event here. So let's just go ahead here just for the sake of space. So we'll just right click here and do custom event, and so we'll name this event like create big map. And so we can call this event at the begin play here. So event begin play, let's just go back to that. And of course here we can just go ahead and call create big map. So create big map. So after we create the minimap and all, we can just finally create the big map. So let's go back to the event. So I'm going to right click here and look for create widget. So we want to create a widget. So what widget we want to create is the my big map. So let's look for that, my big map. So we want to create the widget, and we want to save that widget to a variable, or like promote it to a variable so that we can use it later when we press like M or something like that. So we want to create the my big map widget, and in the return value, we're going to right click and select promote to a variable. So we want to promote that to a variable. So let's call that my sweet big map, for example. All right, so that's our big map. So the next step would be probably to handle the OnClick event. So when we click on the map, we want to, for example, add a marker, etc. So let's go ahead and create an event there. So we'll right click here. So we're going to right click and do another custom event, and we're going to call it my, and so we're going to call it my big map OnClick event, for example. So my big map OnClick. And so to handle the OnClick event, we'll need to add two variables or like two parameters. So we'll select that event and go to the inputs here and add the first parameter. So we'll call it location. So this is what the word location when you click on the map. So you can use that location to do whatever you want. So this the type of this parameter will be vector, and we'll add another parameter, and it's going to be a key, basically what mouse button you clicked. So we'll just call it key or button, whatever. So button, and for the type is going to be a key. So make sure it's a key, not a key event. It's just a key. So key, just compile real quick. So now we'll use this variable to get the minimap component. So let's drag here and do get minimap component. And so from this minimap component, we want to call bind OnClick event. So let's just look for bind event to minimap clicked. And so this is the event. And so I want to give it the event that we're going to use. So it's this one. So make sure you link it here. And let's go ahead and do this as well. So we're going to use this event to handle the OnClick event. So whenever you click on the map, you can like spawn things, you can add a marker, you can do whatever you want. So for now, we'll leave it empty. We'll get back to this later. So now we created the my big map. We promoted to a variable, and then we handled the OnClick event. So depending on what you want to show on your big map, we can do it on the event begin play. For example, here. We can add something to the big map, or we can do it when we click on the M key, for example. So for now, just as an example, I'm going to add the AI characters. I'm going to add friendly AI, and later I'm going to show you how you can copy whatever you have on your minimap and show it on your big map. But for now, just as a reminder, I just want to show you how you can add things to a minimap component. So after we bind the OnClick, let's just go ahead and do a sequence here. It's much better for like organizing things. So let's just add a sequence here. So we'll do this first, and then we'll continue here. So if we go back to the map here and perspective, so our friendly AI are these characters right here. If we select one of them, we have the class of this character is the T-friendly AI. So that's what we want to add to the minimap, or like the big map. So let's get this variable, so we can just get it from the from this panel. So my sweet big map, and same thing, we just get the minimap component. So get minimap component. So we always want to get the minimap component, and then of course call whatever function. So we want to add actors. So let's go ahead and call add actors. So I want to add multiple actors. We can add a single actor if we want, but for this example, we want to add multiple actors. So let's select that function. So we need the actors here. So what are the actors that we want to add? The actors are, of course, the friendly AI. So since we don't have them anywhere, so we'll just use the get all actors of class. So let's go ahead and right click, get all actors of class. So get all actors of class. Let's link it here. And so what do we want to get? We want to get the friendly AI. So friendly AI. So we want to get the friendly AI, and this is going to be the actors that we want to add to the big map. So all right, so let's link it here. And so we gave it the actors, and so we want to follow their rotation because they are characters. For the texture, I'm going to select the position indicator, and so that's the texture. For the size, let's leave it 50 by 50 for now. For the color, let's do make slate color. Let's select, for example, green for like friendly characters. For the height indicator, this is to tell if they're above or below you. I have a separate tutorial for this. For the tooltip, you can add a tooltip to when you hover over them. So for example, we can just say friendly. Of course, you don't have to do this. Just leave it empty if you don't want to show any tooltip. So this is all you need to add characters to the minimap component. And of course, later I'll show you how you can copy whatever you have in your minimap and just clone it pretty much, or like copy it to the minimap, to the big map. And so next we want to press something to add this big map to the viewport. So we can just use tab. So let's just right click and just tab. We'll just use tab to show this widget. So the first thing we want to do is verify if the widget is already in the viewport. If it is, we want to remove it. If not, we want to add it. So let's get the my sweet big map, and we want to check if it is visible. So we'll just call is visible. And so we'll add a branch here. So if it is visible, so if it's not visible, we'll add it to the viewport. And so if it's not visible, so if it's false, we're going to add this to the viewport. So let's call add to viewport. So we want to add this widget to the viewport, if it's false, of course. And of course, as always, we want to get the minimap component. So git just write component, so git minimap component, and you want to call minimap start update. So we need that minimap to start updating what's going on. So let's drag a pin from minimap component and let's call minimap start update. So minimap start update. So we need the owner pawn. This is very important so that it can update properly. So we'll drag from here, or just give it self. So this character, so self, or like this. So self is going to be the owner pawn. So this is very important to give it the owner pawn. And so that's all we need for now. So we should be able to press tab and show the widget and see our friendly AI on the big map. And later we'll handle true here. So let's go ahead and play. And we want to press tab. And as you can see, we can see the big map working just fine. And this is our player. And these are friendly AI. And for the tooltip, as we hover over them, we can see that it says friendly. So that's the tooltip. You can leave it empty if you don't want to show anything. Let's try the slider, and the slider is working just fine. We can of course move the map with the left mouse button, and we can use the mouse wheel to zoom in and out, of course. Now, if visible is true, this means that it's already in the viewport, and so we want to remove it. So let's just go ahead and call remove from parent. So remove from parent. And so you don't have to do this, but you can call minimap stop update. You can stop updating the minimap if you want. So let's get the minimap component from the variable and just call minimap stop update. So minimap stop update. There you go. So minimap stop update. So when you call minimap stop update, you can choose to clear the point of interest. Basically, whatever you added to the map, you can choose to clear them. If you want to clear, like you want to remove those characters we added in the begin play, you can. If you check this one, they'll get removed. You can check this option if you want to do that. But for now, we're not going to do this. So let's go ahead and test. And so we press tab to show the map, and we press tab to hide it. Sometimes you might want to add a delay here to give it some time to update. So or like initialize. So let's just go ahead and add a delay here. So you don't have to do this, but I'll just give it some time to initialize properly so that things are displayed perfectly. So 0.1 100 millisecond should be it shouldn't be noticeable. In the event begin play, we called this event. So in this event, we created the minimap, or like the big map, and we added the AI characters. What if we want to copy whatever we have in the minimap and just put them into this big map? For example, if we play here, you can see in our minimap that we already have a lot of things added to it. We have these treasures, we have this quest character, and we have our friendly and enemy AI. So what if we just want to copy these things to the big map? So we can do that easily. So we can either do it at the event begin play, or you can do it whenever we press tab. Let's start by doing it here in the event begin play. So if we remove this, we can of course just get the sweet big map, which is just the widget we created here, and we're gonna get the minimap component. Just copy paste real quick. So this is the minimap component, and we want to call the function clone point of interest. So clone point of interest array, and so that's the function we want to use. So this pretty much just copies from another minimap component. So that's what we're going to do next, and it needs a source. So the source is going to be our minimap. So we already have the minimap. We're just going to use that and get the minimap component of that minimap. So get the minimap component. And we want to get the point of interest array, so we can just call get array. So we can get the point of interest array, and that's going to be the source. And this function gives you two options. Do you want to keep the persistent actors? Again, I highly recommend that you watch the other tutorials to understand what are persistent actors and non-persistent actors. So you can choose to add everything as normal actors if you don't want them to be persistent, or you can keep them persistent so that if they're off map, you can change to the out of minimap texture. And for the height indicator, you can choose to keep that option enabled. And for my case, I'm going to leave these two options empty. Now, if we play, we should see pretty much, or like we should copy whatever we have on our minimap to the big map. So if I press tab, we have everything that we have on our minimap added to the big map. Now we can see everything. We can see the enemy AI, we can see the friendly AI, and of course everything else. And as normal, of course, you can zoom in, you can like move the map and go to specific areas and do whatever you want there. So the final thing I want to talk about in this video is the OnClick event. So we want to handle the OnClick event. So whenever you click on your map, you want to do something. So we already handled that event, but we did nothing on the event itself. So we have a location and we have the button. So we can do whatever we want with these two things. So the location is the world location. So we can spawn another character. We can do anything. So what we're going to do is we're going to add an empty character. So if we go to the minimap, like the Centaurus minimap folder, so let's go ahead here and go to the minimap component and then actors. We have a bunch of empty actors here. So if you add them to the world, they're just empty actors. They're just dummy actors. So we can use something like that to add a marker to the minimap. So let's go ahead and add this other. So what I did here is I have a point of interest parent. And so what I do here, I just right click and just create a child. And I can call that car or like a house or something like that, and I can use that to add things to the minimap. So for now, I'm just going to use this other or target. Let's just use target. So it's pretty much the same thing. It's just with a different class name. So let's go back to the tutorial character, and I'm going to right click and do spawn actor from class. So spawn actor from class. And so what I want to spawn that target dummy actor. So child point of interest target is just an empty actor which has a few variables that we can customize. So we want to spawn this actor. For collision, we'll just pick always spawn. For minimap persistent, I'm going to uncheck that. For the texture, we're going to pick location pointer, which is this one. And so that's our location pointer. For the color, let's select a color, for example, something dark that we can see. For the size, let's select something like 50 by 50, of course, depending on your texture. And for the out of minimap, we don't care. It's not a persistent actor. And for height indicator, we don't care about those as well. So let's just leave everything as is. Now I'm going to right click on return value, and I'm going to promote this to a variable. So promote to a variable, and I'm going to call it my big map marker. So my big map marker. So that's the name of this actor. So before spawning this actor, I want to check if it is valid. So if it is valid, we'll just change its location. If it's not, we'll spawn it. So let's get my big map marker, and let's just look for is valid. So we'll pick the macro version. So when we click on the map, or like big map, we want to check if it is valid. If it's not valid, we'll spawn it. So if it's not valid, we'll spawn this actor and then add it to the map. I'm going to use right click to add the marker. So before this, I'm going to add a branch and just get the button used and just see if it was right click. So let's just do equal. So if it is equal to, so we're going to type right mouse buttons. So if it is right mouse button, then we can proceed. If it's not, we can just ignore. So if it is right mouse button, if it's true, we'll see if the big map marker is valid. If it's not, we'll spawn it. And then after we spawn it, we need to add it to the map. From here, we'll get the sweet big map, and we'll get the minimap component as always. So get minimap component, and we want to add an actor. So we'll just call add actor. So we'll select the function without the S. So add actor. So we'll select this one without the S because we want to add a single actor. And what is the point of interest actor? It's this marker. Do we want to follow the rotation of this marker? We don't. It's just a simple marker. For the texture, let's just get it from here. So get texture. So just this texture right here. So we'll just get that from there. And we'll just use the same thing for everything else. So for the size, it's pretty much just the same, 50 by 50. For the color, just get color. And so there you go. Now for the height indicator, I don't care about the height indicator. For the tooltip, we can select something like my sweet marker. So for the tooltip, you can leave it empty if you don't want to show a tooltip when you hover over the marker. For my case, I'm just going to add the my sweet marker here as a tooltip. Okay, so one important thing, of course, is the location here. So let's not forget to specify the spawn transform. So we're going to drag from the spawn transform and do make transform. So we need to give it the spawn location. So the spawn location will be coming from this event. So this is the location where we're going to spawn the marker. After we spawn this empty actor, we want to save it in this variable and then add it to the minimap, or like to the big map. So now we should be able to add a marker when we right click. So let's go ahead and press tab and press C to enable the mouse. And if I click here, as you can see, that's my sweet marker. And of course, now I want to right click somewhere to change the location of that marker. So this is where, now if it is valid, we'll just change its location. So we'll get this big map marker and just do, and we'll look for sit location, or like actor location. That's all we have to do. So for the location, it's coming from the event, and so that's the location. So again, if it is valid, which means it's already on the map, and so we want to just change its location so that it updates on the map. So let's go ahead and play, and let's just press H to hide these tips. And so we're going to press tab, and then I'm going to press C to enable the mouse. And if I right click here, for example, I add the marker. If I right click, for example, and in a different area, we can then change the location of that marker. So if I, of course, close the map and reopen it, we always have that marker there. And so there you go. Now, of course, if you want to remove the marker, you can simply call destroy actor. You can just destroy this empty actor, for example, like so, destroy actor. And it's going to be removed from the map automatically, or from the minimap component. Again, if you want to change anything about the tooltip, you can just go to the Centaurus minimap. You can go to the minimap component, and you can just open up this point of interest, the W here. And so if you select tooltip here, you can just change the color, opacity, and font, etc. You can pretty much customize anything you want about this point of interest. So I think that's pretty much it for this tutorial. If you have any questions, you can comment below or use the email address in the description. I hope this video was useful. Take care and see you next time. Goodbye.